Hello and welcome to this module on great project leadership. It's probably my favorite module, to be honest. It's always a topic that I just absolutely love teaching. And it's a bit of a special topic because it's not really contained on its own in documents like the PMBOK guide or process groups of practice guide or even other project management textbooks and that. But it's such an essential part of what makes a great project manager that it's absolutely important to focus on it. And it is mentioned. Certainly, you'll find in textbooks, that leadership and is essentially might be a half a page or a few paragraphs. And in the PMBOK guide, it's mentioned, and in process groups of practice guide, there's leadership characteristics. But I think that diminishes how important it is to the role of the project manager. So what I'm going to show you is all the attributes of great project leadership, or just leadership generally. We don't really need to separate out projects from operational work. I do show you a model about leadership in projects and why projects are unique, and you might need different leadership traits at different times. But here, consider it that I'm basically teaching you about just great leadership. So let's start. Why bother? Why study leadership at all? Well, the thing is that leadership isn't like studying Gantt charts. It isn't like studying work breakdown structures, earned value management, qualitative risk analysis, because there's really no distinction between your personal and professional growth when it comes to leadership. I'm not sure if you grow too much personally by studying how to do a Gantt chart. I know you grow professionally, but leadership is a combination of both. You don't really have a choice. They are combined. So studying leadership means, well, definitely professionally, it's going to help your career. You may have aspirations already to be a senior leader, but regardless, you need these leadership skills. But also personally, studying leadership will help you to reach your personal goals and fulfill your full potential. So that's one of the more important aspects of it. So please, whatever your views on leadership and your aspirations, please be proactive. Get out there, learn, apply, get better, and accept all of the personal and professional challenges that leadership presents. So I mentioned just very briefly about what's different about project management. So I just want to join a couple of dots here so we can connect the dots, so to speak. We know that when it comes to project management, we know that appropriate and properly applied practices add bottom line value to an organization. They make projects more successful. So doing the right projects in the right way helps organizations be more successful. And we also know from research that the right sort of leadership increases the likelihood of project success, and the absence of leadership negatively affects the chance of project success. So therefore, good or great leadership means more successful projects means more successful organizations. So that's why we want you to study leadership, because it is such a crucial component. And a lot of what I'm going to take you through in this particular module is based on research, verifiable research. Some of it's my opinion, and I'll try and clear that distinction between the two. Excuse me. But yeah, most of it's based on a lot of really good research because it is an area of research. So let's start right at the beginning. Let's start with the definition of leadership. What exactly is it? Because if you ask people what leadership is, they sort of use that sort of circular logic, or leadership is leading, or so this is a definition that served me very well. Now, it's my definition. I did a thesis on leadership many years ago as part of my MBA. And I had to come up with a definition that suited me and captured everything that I felt leadership was. So for my definition, I found none better, by the way. This is just simple, straightforward. It is the purposeful influencing of followers. And the reason there's a tripod on the screen is it needs all three of these things. It needs to be purposeful, influencing, and have followers to be leadership. Because like a tripod, if it only has two of them, it will fall over. So it's purposeful, influencing of followers. Let's take a closer look at each of those. First up, it must be purposeful. The leader must say, yeah, I'm going to be the leader. They must accept the challenge. because there are lots of people we want to follow who don't want to lead us. So purposeful. So the leaders go, it's my role, it's my responsibility, I accept this, I will be the leader. So purposeful is the first part of it. The next one is influencing. Because the leader must have a vision of the future. It might be a successful project, it might be a happy client, it might be great profit. They've got to have this vision of the future, and they must be prepared to influence their followers to believe in and see and move towards that vision. So you've got to have some influencing skills, communication skills, team building skills, negotiation skills, political skills. So you've got to be purposeful, and it's got to be influencing. And then the last one, and it's strange that it comes last because it is the most important, followers. Leadership is a relationship between a leader and a follower. It's not a subscription service that the followers sign up for blindly. It's one that they go into willingly. And it is a relationship because without followers, there are no leaders. Absolutely. The followers give consent to be led, and at any point they can withdraw that consent to be led. They often don't know this though, and often we're told that followers don't have any power, but that's absolutely not true. In any sort of relationship, whether it's friendship or romantic or this sort of relationship, the parties are actually equal. And me, I get tired of the myth that it's the leaders that have all the power. Because think about this. How much power do leaders really have when followers decide not to be led? Well, pretty soon they find out they don't have any power. And in fact, it's the followers that have the power in that relationship. They just don't know it. And if you want to find out who's got the power in an organization, you think it's the leader at the top, it's not. It'll be that next level down of followers that are orchestrating everything. So the followers are so important. And it's interesting because years ago when I did my thesis way back in 2007, I think, guys, a million years ago, good Lord. When I went looking for books on leadership on Amazon, there were hundreds or thousands of books on leadership. There was only 2 books on followership. But if you go searching now, there's a whole lot more as sort of science and academia catches up with this concept that it's followers that have the power. So a leader must acknowledge that they're in a relationship with followers. They must value and protect this relationship. So keep that in mind. It doesn't matter if you're a leader or follower, just acknowledge that relationship. So are you a leader or are you a follower? Well, the answer is both. You're definitely a follower. We're all followers, but you're also a leader. You may not be a leader in the workplace yet, but you might be a leader in your friendship group, your social group, your sporting group, your hobby group, whatever it is. You might be a leader there, but we're always followers, so we can be leader and follower. You can also have people in the workplace who lead a group of people but follow other people, more senior people in the organization. So here's my question for you. If you are a leader, do you know what your followers expect of you? Have you asked them? Have you checked in with them? And if you are a follower, do you know what your leaders are expect of you? Or conversely, have you made it clear the conditions under which you will be led and the conditions under which you withdraw your consent to be led? Okay, so it is a relationship, leader and follower. So let's bust that myth straight away, that leaders have all the power. And the other thing about leadership is it's situational. This simply just means that different styles of leadership flourish in different situations. And there isn't one style of leadership that flourishes in every situation. And in fact, certain types of leadership which flourish in some situations are disastrous in others. Think of the charismatic leader, the very good speaker who can get a crowd going. Well, in fact, they're only good in times of high change. Other than that, they can be seen as distrusted and lacking substance and things like that. And also think about, what's another good example? Another good example might be military style of leadership, which tends to be more directive, as in get down, avoid the bullets, don't get yourself injured, do what I say. But if maybe in the local charity group around the corner, there'd be a more consensus building leadership where the leadership brings people together and it's more servant leadership, serving people. You couldn't change those styles of leadership, could you? You don't want to be in a war zone and have a leader going, "Hi, how are you? How are you feeling? Is this stressing you? Do you need a hug?" No, you don't want that. And also in the community or charity group, you don't want a leader telling you, "Go pick up those things, get that stuff out." It's just going to alienate volunteers and that. So look, leadership is situational. So that's good because you've got your leadership strengths, which means in terms of truly flourishing, you've just got to find those situations where your leadership strengths absolutely work. It's one thing I've always been aware of in my career is I have a particular style of leadership, and I know the situations under which it flourishes, and I know the situations it doesn't. Now, if I find myself in a situation where it doesn't, I'll either try and get out of that situation because I know there's somebody better than me for it, or I'll try and augment my skills that I don't have with somebody else's skills as well. So do keep that in mind. There's no one size fits all style of leadership. So you can find your particular style of leadership. So there's a quick introduction into what leadership is. Let's go through, well, so what? What are the characteristics, traits, and skills or competencies that a great leader should have? An easy solution could be just go on Amazon, couldn't it? We could just go onto Amazon and we could look for some books about leadership. Now that brings up an interesting search result because if you just go onto Amazon and type leadership, this is what you get. Every one of these words that you see on the screen in front of you is taken from a book about leadership on Amazon. So you can be the primal leader, the entrepreneurial leader, the strategic leader, the tribal leader, the bullying, the trait-based leader, the authentic leader, the character-based leader, the adaptive leader, the warrior leader. These are all words out of titles from books. The one that you should always be focused on is servant leadership, by the way. The work of Robert Greenleaf there. Get his book. If you're going to get the book on servant leadership, get Robert Greenleaf's book. I'll just write that there so you know what his name is. Robert Greenleaf. Leaf. There we are. So you can do that there. Robert Greenleaf, Servant Leadership. He wrote the book on it. And it is the one that we do prefer now because it is in projects, generally speaking, the preferred way. And certainly if you're going to be doing agile or adaptives, it's what's really preferred. Okay, so there we are. So how do we sort through all of that to figure out, well, what sort of leadership traits are best? Well, lucky for us, there's been a lot of work done in the world of academia over the last 20 or 30 years. And there is a wonderful model from a couple of guys called Turner and Mueller. I really do need to look up their names. I'll do that now on my phone. Hang on a minute. I'll bring my phone over because it's disrespectful to not have their names. So let me just quickly check their names. You should always credit your sources fully. And there we are, Turner and Mueller. Ralph Mueller and J.R. Turner. What's the J.R. stand for? It will be Ralph, won't it? Rafe. J. Rodney Turner and Ralph Mueller. There we are. So just giving them full credit. There we are. So there is a great model. Now, there are lots of models out there for leadership. The reason I choose this one is that Turner and Mueller have for years been focusing on leadership in projects. So their particular model focuses on the competencies in projects. There are lots of models. Theirs is a 15 core competency model. So it lists 15 core competencies, and they all change depending on the type of project, by the way. And projects are unique because there are constraints that operational work doesn't have. There's time, budget, or resource constraints as well, and it is finite and unique, so it is going to end one day. So there are unusual things about projects which require a certain model of leadership. So I'm going to use Turner and Mueller's model. And there are, as I said, just acknowledging there are lots of different ways of describing it. And we're also going to use another model too. So this is the 15 core competencies of project leadership from Turner and Mueller. Yeah, Ralph Turner, Ralph Mueller, J. Rodney Turner. Okay, so they separate them into three areas: managerial competencies, intellectual competencies, and emotional competencies. So we've got engaging communication, managing resources, empowering, developing, and achieving under managerial. Under intellectual, we've got critical analysis and judgment, vision and integration, strategic perspective. And under emotional, we have self-awareness, emotional resilience, motivation, sensitivity, influence, intuitiveness, and conscientiousness. Now, their model is really good, and I do encourage you to go get their book, or I've got it, and it's been invaluable to me. So they spend the first half of the book talking about their research and how they came up with this. The second half of the book actually goes through all different types of projects, from IT to construction to small to medium to large to complex to simple, and it maps out each of these 15 competencies and which ones they've proven suit better. So there are certain areas that require more engaging communication, certain areas where critical analysis and judgment is more important, certain project types where emotional resilience is more important. So it's a great model. So it's a really good model. And I thought that's what you did. You just sort of learned about core competencies and figure out where those core competencies fit. And you learnt them if you didn't have them, and you practiced them and you got better at them. So you could learn how to be more empowering, more how to have a better vision and integration, or show more intuitiveness. And then something happened a few years ago. So this is the same model. Excuse me, just a bit thirsty at the moment. So there's the model, and it's around the outside, organized by the emotional, intellectual, managerial competencies. So a few years ago, I was a consultant in an organization. I was there to help them get better. And I got to know the head of this particular business unit very well. And he'd been there for 10 years and worked his way up through the ranks from sort of intermediate to senior, and now was managing this business unit, running a really important business unit. I think they had about 50 or 60 staff. And I got to see him in the workplace, and he would be saying great things, and he would be displaying emotional resilience and motivation. He'd be telling people he trusted them and thought they were great and were a fantastic team. And, he would be empowering them and all of this. And it just so happened that we had a hobby in common, and we started to socialize outside of work. And one night we're out, and I just happened to say to him, hey, listen, in the workplace, it's really good to see you as a leader. You display these competencies. And look, admittedly, he had a couple of drinks, but he then leaned over to me and started saying, I don't like them, can't stand them. They're all useless. Oh my God, free me from them, sort of thing. And I said, wow, this is so different from what I see in the workplace. What's going on here? And he leaned across and he said to me something I've never forgotten. He said, don't worry about it, Sean. I've been on all the leadership courses and I know what to say. I thought, oh, that's it. It's just like learning how to do a Gantt chart. You don't need to believe in a Gantt chart. You don't even need to like the Gantt chart. You just need to learn how to do a Gantt chart. So that was interesting and a bit of a revelation at the time. Okay, so leadership is just a skill you learn, and you don't need to believe that you're empowering people or letting them achieve things. You don't need to believe in consciousness. You've got to pretend these things. Then a few months later, he got a promotion, was leaving to go to another organization, and he invited me to his going away party. Now, remember, he's got 50, 60 staff. He's been there at this point for like 11 years. And half his staff turned up. And of the half that turned up, only half had signed his going away card. And it was then that they knew that he wasn't authentic, that he didn't have that strong beating heart of a personal foundation. And that's what this is here in the middle of this slide. It's a strong beating heart of a personal foundation, being truly authentic. They knew either consciously or subconsciously that he was faking it. So that's what I've added to the model of Turner and Mueller, is not only the need to learn and display different competencies at different times, to identify your strengths amongst them, to identify your weaknesses and work on those, but also at the heart of it, to have a strong, authentic personal foundation. It is really important that you have a strong, authentic personal foundation, because in your career as a leader, you'll have to display certain competencies at certain times and not at others. They'll fluctuate this way and this way, but it'll always be constant that you're authentic and you have that strong personal foundation, that set of values and that sense of integrity, that people believe who you are. And it's also necessary in all leadership situations. While competencies may change, being authentic doesn't. Now, also, as a leader, you're going to get access to power. Heard the phrase, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts, absolutely. And without a strong, authentic personal foundation and that sense of integrity, the dark, narcissistic side of leadership can take hold. So don't compromise. Have a set of foundation values. Show integrity, and be yourself. Okay. So here's some pictures that may cause some discussion. These people that you're about to see appearing in front of you, are they authentic leaders? Now, it's interesting because when I run this workshop in person, we normally have about a 30-minute discussion from here. And I generally try and populate the slide with pictures of leaders, relevant to the group wherever I am teaching in the world. So I've got a generic group here, and you may recognize some of them. And one of the things I've learned in teaching this now for a long time is that despite your best thoughts, you may be looking at the person on that screen that you think is the most authentic leader ever. I've certainly found that there's always somebody who goes, no, there's something you don't know about them, which is really interesting. So I'm not going to get into a discussion about individual people on this. Maybe one. This guy here. Who's that? That's Lance Armstrong, 7-time Tour de France champion, the big bike race that goes through France in July each year. Great backstory, competitive as a mountain biker and cyclist, got testicular cancer, recovered from that, and then went on to win the Tour de France 7 times. Under a cloud, as most cyclists were at the time, probably still are to be honest, about doping and using enhancing drugs, and he swore he never did it. People accused him of it, and he took them to court. Absolutely not. Clean was his claim. And he retired as 7 times champion. What he didn't count on was technology catching up. And a few years after he retired as champion, testing technology had caught up, and they went back and tested all his samples and found every single one of them was dirty. So he's the biggest cheat in sports history. So was he authentic? No, because he said he didn't cheat, and he did. And part of being authentic is doing what you say you're going to do and sticking with that. It also means having a strong, authentic foundation and promoting that. Now, some of these images that you see on the screen, you may not agree with these people, but that doesn't mean they're not authentic. As long as they're honest about who they are, and as long as they don't chop and change to suit different audiences or circumstance, then they are generally authentic. And for humorous purposes, I put Darth Vader on there because he was authentic. He said he was going to blow up your planet. He was going to blow up your planet. Okay? He kept his word. So look, there's some other very, very well-known figures here apart from Lance Armstrong. Every one of these figures, without exception, I've learned, has a complicated backstory. Well, actually, no. Greta and Malalia do not have do not have a complicated backstory. Okay, no. They're just who they are. Nothing there. But every other one of these figures here actually is not what they seem to be to everybody. And I've learned that after teaching this now for 15 years. So every one of these figures, yeah, there was some really surprising. The ones that I've been most surprised about as teaching is Mother Teresa and Nelson Mandela. And you may be watching this now going, no, they're no good at all. And that was a real surprise to me because they both stood out to me as very authentic people. There are probably some people in the tech world. We've got Steve Jobs and Elon Musk. You could argue are or aren't authentic. And there are certain politicians too. Politicians don't tend to be that authentic because they generally say what they need to say to get elected. But take a look at that and take a look at the leaders around you at the moment and ask yourself, are they authentic? Are they honest? Do I know who they really are? Or do they say one thing and do another? That's not authentic. So I'm going to encourage you to be authentic to who you truly are. Now, in order to give you a model to work to, I could have just left you with the Turner and Mueller model and go pick out those 15 competencies and just work on the ones that you're weakest in. But that's not easy. So actually, I'm going to draw on some more academics here to help you out. Now, I'm going to show you the work of Kurzes and Posner, and the book is coming up at the end, and I think it's spelt like this. I believe it's spelled like that. And the book is coming up at the end. So they've been researching leadership for, it must be 30 years now at a university. And they've put out a lot of books on what makes exemplary or great leaders. And this applies to leaders in project management. It applies to leadership in your family circle, your hobby group, it's any job that you're in. This is a really good model that I've got the 5 practices of exemplary leaders, because I've studied and studied and studied the really great leaders. And these are the 5 top characteristics that they've found that those leaders display. The book reference is coming up at the end. So first up, they model the way, they inspire a shared vision, they challenge the process, they enable others to act, and they encourage the heart. Let's go through each of these one by one. So the first one is model the way. Here, you need to clarify your personal values. Have you done that lately? Have you actually sat down and written down what your values are? I know that when I went through my MBA, all those millions of years ago, my leadership lecturer, great guy, Dr. Pete Kamick, you see his books too, The Dance of Leadership. What's his other book? I don't know, but Dr. Pete Kamick, Kammock. He got us through an exercise at the beginning of the class to actually write down our values and put it on a little bit of paper and put it inside our wallets, carry it around and refer to it. It was just a great exercise going, what are my values? Honesty, family, friendship, all of these things, and write them down so you know what your values are, so you know. And also my advice is figure out which ones are concrete and which ones are rubber. Some are pliable. Honesty is a good one. If you're absolutely honest, you're going to offend people. And we don't forget we're going to a separate module too on project management ethics, and you should go check that one out too. And the next thing is set the example by aligning your words and your action. Do what you say you're going to do. Don't say one thing and do another thing. So you are supposed to stand up for your beliefs, so you'd better have some beliefs to stand up for, and people follow first the person, then the plan. So be the person they want to follow by having a set of personal values and sticking to them. And the word integrity isn't a value in itself, because integrity means having a set of values and sticking with them. So have integrity. Don't be tempted to bend them. The next one is inspire a shared vision. Leaders have to see the future, the successful project in our case, and they have to get everybody on board with all of this. Okay? They gaze across the horizon of time. That's noble language, isn't it? Gaze across the horizon of time. In our instance, I just know that on one project I worked on, people would ask me what's my vision for the project. And it was a construction project, an urban redevelopment project. And I would say, in 10 years' time, I'm going to walk down this area in this particular city. And I might be walking with friends and family. And they're going to ask me, hey, didn't you have something to do with this? And depending on how well we'd done the job, I'd either go, no, I was just a consultant, or I'd go, no, I'm really proud of what we did. And I would tell this to the team all the time for the 2 years we worked on that project. That was my vision of the future, happy people, me being proud, things like that. So remember that. So you need to communicate your vision for that successful project, the time, the budget, the happy client, the repeat business, the new product, whatever it is. Your enthusiasm and passion for your vision will be catching. So you've got to communicate it. And passion is so important. And what we're talking about here with passion is not the first definition there. We're talking about the second definition, a strong or extravagant fondness, enthusiasm, or desire for anything, i.e. a passion for music. Because the best leaders are passionate about what they do, and they can bring that passion to the fore, and they can communicate their passion. So you need to discover what you're passionate about, and you are passionate about something. I often run this workshop in person, and I'll ask everybody just to raise their hands if they're passionate about work. And I generally get about 10 to 20% of the room raising their hands. And then I ask people the next question, and I say, I'm not going to ask anything more. Okay, I'm not going to ask for any further information. But then I ask people to raise their hands if there's something in their life that they are passionate about. Pretty much 100% of people raise their hands. Everybody's passionate about something, and it may not be the workplace. So that's a challenge. What do you do in that case? If there's something that you're passionate about, but it isn't work? Well, I learned this, a great lesson many years ago. So one of my passions is music. I love playing music. In fact, here's a secret. The screen behind me is obviously a virtual screen. If I was to switch that off right now, you would see behind me a rack of guitars, you would see microphones, you would see a vocal recording booth all set up. because I love music so much. I play it, I record it, and here's a little secret: I actually release it under another name. So bonus points if you can find out the name that I release my music under. But I'm passionate about music. I always have been, ever since I was young, and yeah, I've always been passionate about music. And one day I said to somebody, "Well, I'm passionate about music, and I wasn't passionate about the job." And they said, "Well, let's do an exercise." And it was a good exercise, and I'll ask you to do the same thing. They said, "Think about the thing that you're passionate about." And I did. I thought about music, and I thought, "What are you? Why are you passionate about music?" And I thought about it. I said, "I just love playing." They go, "No, no, that's not it." I thought, okay. They made me think, and they questioned me, and I discovered that I wasn't passionate about practicing or rehearsing, and don't really enjoy that. I wasn't passionate about the writing side of things either. Um, then I discovered I was passionate about performing. I love being in my band, love being up on stage or as a solo person as well. There's something about the space that I'm in on the stage that I just love. It feels like home to me. It feels like where I should be. And they said, "So what are you really passionate about?" And I said, "Performance." They said, "Great. Bring that into your workplace." And you may have picked up already, it's pretty hard to pick it up in this environment, that as an educator and a teacher, I bring a bit of performance into my work. And certainly if this was a live session, there'd be a lot more of that. So it's something I'm proud of, to bring a bit of myself, a bit of me being authentic into my workplace. So that's my challenge for you. Find out what it is that you're passionate about and why you're passionate about it. Is it because of creativity, or is it because of order, or is it because of relationship building? And bring that to your workplace and your project. So that's my challenge to you. Find out what you're passionate about and bring that to your workplace. Again, from Kurzes and Posner, number 3, challenge the process. Particularly with projects, you always have to go in new directions, do that unique thing. And so you need to be willing to go in new directions, and you need to be willing to step into the unknown. You need to be happy and comfortable in that role of going in a new direction. You also need to be aware that you're going to take risks and you're going to make mistakes, but we want you to get back up again. We want you to show resilience. Try, fail, learn. And I know that at the moment, a really big factor in recruiting executives is this factor of resilience. I know many years ago it used to be, I remember in the 90s, God, I sound like so old, don't I? A lot of recruitment was based on somebody's IQ, their intellect, and then it moved to EQ, their emotional quotient, EQ. But now a lot of it's on resilience, which is the ability to face hardship, to make mistakes and get up again, to have those internal and external tools and support systems that you can keep going. So just be prepared for that. You need to be comfortable going in new directions, go in innovative things. That comes with risks. You need to be happy with that, particularly in projects. And you need to be willing to lead people in that direction. Okay. You'll always be searching for opportunities to innovate, grow, and improve as a leader. And this is so true for anything you do in the world of project management. The fourth one from Kurzes and Posner is enable others to act. Because one of your jobs as a leader is, in fact, to strengthen others by sharing power and discretion, to help them become their best as well, to delegate, to trust, to foster collaboration by promoting cooperative goals and building trust. You are there to help others to act, and this is the part of the servant leader. So go read the Robert Greenleaf stuff on servant leadership. A leader who can make people feel strong and capable will get more from their team. And you can probably relate to this too. Think of times you've had a leader or a manager that's trusted you and supported you and backed you, even when you've made mistakes. It's not been about who's to blame, it's what can we learn from this. Think about those experiences versus maybe sometimes in your career you had a leader who didn't trust you, said one thing, did another, said they were going to give you authority but never did, and when you made a mistake, blamed you and hung you out to dry. Which one do you want to be? You want to enable others to act as a leader, be the person who's there to support them. And also, one of your jobs on a project is to allow other people to become great leaders as well. So leaders enable others to act not by hoarding the power they have, but in fact by giving it away. So let other people. And there was a great model I saw a few years ago that sort of said, that there was a graph showing the styles of leadership throughout a project, and this was time, and this was the leadership style up there. And it started up here with directive. At the start of a project, you're quite directive, telling people what to do, what the project was about, what their roles were, things like that. Then as you moved through, it went through different styles of leadership, facilitating and all of that, right to the end, when I think right at the end it was like just supportive. By then you should have given away all the power and people should be acting. So really important to do this, particularly in agile environments, but even so in predictive environments as well. And then the fifth from Kurzes and Posner is encourage the heart. And this is a challenge for a lot of people. What? Actually, what? Encourage the heart. What does that mean? It means you need to recognize the contributions of the people by appreciating them and rewarding them. And I gave an example in the module on team development, but I'll repeat it here. But just imagine if you walked up to your desk and there was a handwritten note waiting for you there, and you opened the handwritten note, and it was clearly from your boss, and it said, hey, just a quick note to say thanks. Really appreciated the work that you did last week and how you handled the client in the meeting. Really grateful that you're on the team. Look forward to continuing to work with you. How would you feel reading that? Pretty good, right? Well, you can do that too. Send somebody a Slack message, a Teams message, a Google message, an email, a WhatsApp, whatever you choose, or preferably handwritten. With a little bit of chocolate always goes well too. But recognize contributions, not just privately like that too, but publicly. Give that shout out to people too. Show that you appreciate people and you see people. And also with your team, celebrate the values and the victories. If you get that milestone delivered, have a little moment, 15-minute, 30-minute, 1 hour celebration. We did it, yay. And particularly at the end, have a big celebration. Celebrate people's birthdays, celebrate their important milestones, share with them. It's one thing a leader has to do. And don't forget, you should always be focused on the whole person at work, not just the person they necessarily bring to work. Try to get involved in who they really are. Find out what's going on in their family life, their friends' life, their hobbies, and that. Celebrate those values and victories. I know one workplace, a number of their people play sports outside of work. And if the sports team wins, they celebrate it that week. That person plays soccer or hockey or whatever, and they won. We're going to celebrate it this week. But you should, in project management, we'll definitely celebrate those victories. Okay. But again, this demands that you are authentic and genuine. People will know consciously or subconsciously if you aren't a genuine person when it comes to all of this. So there we are. That's my very high level introduction to great leadership. Hopefully you've picked up that it's absolutely important that you don't have a choice. You are going to have to practice your leadership skills, and it is going to change you personally. So what can you do as some practical steps going forward? Well, first up, accept the challenge and make that decision to develop your leadership skills. They can be learned. Don't buy into this leaders are born, not made business. That's just simply not true. You can learn to be a great leader. You can learn to harness your strengths and put yourselves in situations where your strengths are the best. I want you to think about some of the things I've introduced you to in this module today, and how you can apply them in the workplace and the projects you're working on, but also in your personal life. Follow the Kurzes and Posner model. They have lots of journals. They have a journal for each of those 5 practices. They have some great books. Start doing that. Start to get feedback from followers. Be brave enough to ask your followers, hey, I want to be a leader, or I think I am a leader. How am I doing? What are my strengths? What are my opportunities for improvement? Never frame it as what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses. Humans have an unnatural ability to listen to 10 things about them, 9 of which are good and 1 of which isn't good. They'll focus on the one that isn't good. So when you frame feedback, frame it as what are my strengths and where are my opportunities for improvement, not what don't I do well. Always focus on that. Also, just copy the people you admire, the real people, the fictional people, the alive people, the dead people, the historical people, the modern people. Read autobiographies, study them, copy them. Find out what you admire about them and copy them. Because just remember that leadership opportunities are everywhere. Take them. They'll help you professionally and personally. So I just want you to, as we end this module, just to take a moment to reflect. I want you to think right now, when you think about great leaders that you have had or the great leader that you aspire to be, What are those particular strengths that you admire? And what do you think your greatest strengths as a leader are? And what do you think the best situation is for you to be in a leader? Are you in times of high complexity, high change, or are you the best leader in terms of community and stability? Figure it out. Now, here's a tip. The University of Pennsylvania Positive Psychology Department has for many years, must be over 20 years now, been running a database called the Values in Action Character Strengths Database. And they've taken 24 universal character strengths out of lots of character strengths, and you can go do a free quiz. I like it because it's based on science. It's right up there with Strengths Finder as well. I'm not a big fan of self-help books that don't have research-based evidence behind them, and the VIA Character Strengths has plenty of evidence behind it. So go to viacharacter.org, and look, here's another tip too. Google the following phrase, University, I better spell it right for you. Google this phrase, University of Pennsylvania. How do you spell that? Pennsylvania. Correct my spelling, please. And then just go authentic happiness. Oh, that's a strange Google term, isn't it? That will actually take you to the University of Pennsylvania's Positive Psychology Department, where you can create a free account, and there's lots of tests you can do. You can do tests on happiness and grit and PERMA and lots of different tests there. And the VIA character test is there as well. So go and figure out, what are your character strengths? What are your top ones? What are the ones you want to work on too? So that's my challenge to you as a leader. Get out there and become the leader that you want to be, particularly for projects. Now, look, as promised, here's some further reading. There's lots of so much good reading on leadership. This is a good place to start. There's Kurzes and Posner, a couple of their books. This is their main book, The Leadership Challenge. Then they have workbooks on each of those 5 exemplary practices. So this just happens to be the workbook on encouraging the heart. Bill George, you should be following him on LinkedIn anyway. He's a Harvard professor. He wrote a great book many years ago called True North about finding your purpose in life. Really, it's a great book, so do get that. Daniel Goleman is the original author, I think he was original, on the concept of emotional intelligence, and in there is resilience. There's also a great book on resilience called The Resilience Factor by Karen Rivich. I'm not even going to try and spell her name. It's I'll try typing it, but excuse me for my spelling. I'm pretty sure it's called The Resilience Factor, and I will just Google it. Hang on, I got my phone in front of me. Resilience Factor, Karen, Rivich, there it is. So the book's called The Resilience Factor, 7 Keys to Finding Your Inner Strength and Overcoming Life's Hurdles. And it is by, Karen Rivich. Is that spelling right? R-E-V, yep. And Andrew Shad. There we are. Great book too, it's actually full of great practical tools and techniques for building your own levels of resilience and helping you things like with thinking traps. But the book that I actually do like the most is a weird little book. There is a series of books called A Very Short, Fairly Interesting and Reasonably Cheap Book About Something, kind of like the Dummies series of books. And this one's called A Very Short, Fairly Interesting and Reasonably Cheap Book About Studying Leadership by Brad Jackson and Ken Parry. Look, it's a tiny little book, but in that one book is everything you need to know about leadership, studying it, the theories of leadership, the pros, the cons, how to teach leadership. It's even got a list of movies to watch about leadership. It's like $20 online, and it's such a great, tiny little packed book. So I do really recommend that. And look, drop me a line if there's any other books, science-based books, please. Don't give me those books that are all feel-good factors. Show me the science-based books on leadership, and I'll start adding to this list, and we'll get it bigger over the years. So look, that's coming to the end of this module on leadership. Have you been paying attention? Oh, I've missed out a heading here, obviously. No problems. You won't even notice this. Did you see what I did? Quickly had to stop it and put that title back up. It's magic. Look at that. 3 seconds past, 3 minutes past for me. Anyway, love time dilation. Rightio, so have you been paying attention? So we've got some words on the left-hand side. We've got some definitions on the right-hand side. So the words are leader, follower, competency, authenticity, and Lance Armstrong. And on the right-hand side, we've got A, B, C, D, or E. So you take a look and tell me which ones match which ones. Okay, so what is a leader? Is it A, B, C, D, or E? Hopefully you chose A, someone who accepts responsibility for influencing followers to a vision of the future. What is a follower? Is it B, C, D, or E? Hopefully you chose D, the reciprocal partner to the leader, because it is a partnership and it is reciprocal. What is a competency? Is it B, C, or E? Hopefully you chose B, a description of an observable behavior or skill set required of a leader. What is authenticity? It's either C or E. This one should be easy. The characteristic or competency of being genuine, open, and honest. And finally, what is Lance Armstrong? Well, E, the world's biggest cheat. Anyway, God, I hope he doesn't watch this recording. I'm going to be in trouble. Okay, moving on. So look, just recapping. Professional project management practices we know add value to organization. Great leadership adds to the chance of project success. It's a key component of successful projects. Great project leaders generally, out of all of those competencies, they're great communicators. They remember to have that vision. They trust people. They show empathy. Please protect your personal foundation at all costs. Have that set of values and that sense of integrity. Remember that project environments are generally more focused and constrained than operational environments, and this will affect the particular leadership skills you used. You might just have to do more communication, more team building because of the shorter time frames and the constraints and the pressures that everybody feels. But please, most of all, actively and proactively seek to develop yourself with the traits of a great leader. You don't really have a choice. And just as you would study medicine to become a great doctor, you can study leadership to become a great leader. It may take time, you may make mistakes, you may not be as good at it as you'd like, but you definitely can. So look, thank you so much for paying attention. Once again, I'm grateful for your time. And as with all the other modules, if you have any questions at all, any feedback, any questions at all, you can drop me an email or you can message me, and I will do my best to get back to you as fast as I can. But in the meantime, thank you very much, and yeah, have a great day.